Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 6, Episode 13 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host, Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches of 2021 with match number 38 on our list, which is a match between MJF, Maxwell, Friedman, and Darby Allin from the AEW Full Gear 2021 event held on November the 13th of 2021. This was the opening match of that pay-per-view, and what a way to start a crowd. I've said this before on the show, but the most important matches on a card are the opening contest and the main event, and I put them as complete equals as far as their importance is concerned. I love a good hot opener, especially to a pay-per-view. It's so important, to get the crowd buzzing and the crowd into it. And really, it's for the wrestlers, it's kind of the easiest spot to go out in because, you do have a lot of pressure to kick off the show, but you have this crowd that's energized and just ready and willing to see some wrestling. That's what they've paid, their money to get their ticket for. So it's a great position to be in. And it's something that I look so fondly on. Some of my favorite matches of all time, were show openers. And I really think back to WCW pay-per-views with that. We would often, get the cruiserweights to open the pay-per-view, or before that, the light heavyweights, or, we'd get a United States tag team title match or whatever to open these shows, and they would always be so good. AEW struggled with the pay-per-view opener a little bit. I really look back to when they opened a pay-per-view with that just really weird cinematic dentist office match between Britt Baker and Big Swole, and I remember just thinking for all of this, that this promotion is doing right, this is not right. Thankfully though, mid-2021, they've completely turned that around. They understand, utilizing a hot opener, and the string of hot openers that have had on pay-per-view as of the recording time of this video is incredible. They had Adam Page and Brian Cage at Double or Nothing. They had Eddie Kingston and Miro at All Out. They had this match at Full Gear, and they just had Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho at Revolution. So just quality, banger of an opening match after banger of an opening match. I really hope it's something that they continue with, and I have full confidence that they will. The story leading into this match, I really liked. I know some people online kind of dunked on the whole four pillars thing, but I think it kind of rings true. You have these four young guys in AEW in MJF, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, and Sammy Guevara that when AEW started to a mainstream audience, they were nobodies, right? Yes, we knew them all from the independents, but if you weren't an independent fan, if you were just somebody looking for an alternative, a lapsed fan, whatever it was that brought you to AEW, these were four guys that, had no name value, but were super talented and are clearly the main event stars of the future for this company, to the point that, I have, a wrestling fan that I work with that's a little bit more of a casual fan, that we were texting the one day about AEW, and before, this was, well before the whole four pillars thing, this was about a year prior, but he gave those four names as his favorite AEW talents that he thought, were really going to go places. So it really rings true, giving it the label, that all Japan, four pillars kind of esque thing. I get it, but I have no problem with it. I like that AEW does all of these nods to, wrestling history, so why not? So MJF's, claim here was that he was the best of the four pillars, the strongest of the pillars. He had already beat Sammy Guevara in a great match on Dynamite. He had already beat Jungle Boy at a killer pandemic match at, I believe it was Double or Nothing 2020. And, all that was left was Darby. And, in the lead up to this match, he'd run down Darby, basically say you're nothing more than a glorified stuntman. I'm a better wrestler, so much better than you, in fact, that I could beat you with a headlock takeover. And that was the story of this match. MJF, he's so good. Both of these guys are so young, MJF especially, but so talented, so talented. And he does these great little things too to to nod to, wrestling history, even really before his time. And he's got, whether it's intentional or not, he's got like these paisley tights on for this match that are just total like Rick the Model Martel tights. And I love them so much. I wanted to give him a call out on this episode. But this match, it's so very good. It tells a great story throughout it. It's got big moves. It's got a red hot crowd. This is a match that we will no doubt look back on, in 3-4 years when these guys are main eventing an AEW pay-per-view for the AEW World Title. If MJF sticks around. I know there's, been some talk about possibly him looking at WWE options. I don't know what's going to happen there. I hope he sticks around though, because the wrestling world, especially in AEW, really is his oyster. This match though, it starts so good because right from the bell, all of this talk about MJF thinking he's the superior wrestler and all of this headlock takeover stuff, the very first move he does is an eye poke. So dirty, but it leads him into getting all of these headlock takeovers for all of these near falls at the start of the match, really drilling home that, that's going to play a pivotal point or a pivotal role, I should say, in this match. The opening work here is so good, and I really love what they did here. They show that both of these guys are super evenly matched, and they have all of these great, beautiful, overly, contrived, but excellent, sequences. They do a double knuckle walk where they both end up on their backs and bridge up. But what I really liked here is they did a twist on what you would expect, and they showed MJF having this like speed and quickness advantage during this exchange where he's doing cartwheels and resortes and springboards back off the ropes and like all of these things you wouldn't expect from him. But on the flip side, Darby, who's someone that you would expect that offense from, is, excelling in the wrestling department with arm drags and headlock takeovers of his own and like coming, out of all of the wrestling sequences, on top. And it was just so good where both of these guys are basically in there with a chip on their shoulder, trying to prove that they're better than the other one and are trying to do it by showing up the other at their own style. It was really, really cool. But then we also look at both of these guys' strengths also being their weaknesses in the match, which I love because, MJF, one of his strengths are, that he's this heel and he can play mind games and get into people's heads. But, that can also be a weakness where he can get distracted. And Darby's biggest strength is, his devil-may-care, reckless moves that he does, that stuntman sort of stuff that MJF will call out. But again, that can be incredibly successful, but if he crashes and burns, it can be his downfall. And really early on, we get that where MJF bails to the floor and starts trash talking to a fan that leaves him exposed for Darby to hit that wild, just like tope where he just throws his entire body at Max on the floor, which is great. But then Darby tries to follow that up with a coffin drop onto the ring apron, and he misses and crashes and burns on it. So again, the strength and weakness story that they told here was really, really cool and really different. You don't see a lot of depth a lot of times to a match, especially, a match with two young guys like this that oftentimes we can see, go out and just try to hit all of the biggest moves and everything like that. So it was really, really neat psychology mixed in with all of these crazy dangerous moves, and I really appreciated it. So after the crash and burn on the coffin drop on the apron, Max, he really goes to work on Darby's back. He hits a Atlantida into a backbreaker. He's, whipping him really hard into the buckles, and Darby's, taking bumps off those when the small of his back hits the buckles. MJF does this great tilt-a-whirl backbreaker and then swings him back the other way in a tilt-a-whirl side slam, which was really cool. He tries to take Darby up top, and Darby just at this point he's so scrappy. I think Darby Allin's one of the most, compelling wrestlers that there is because he's so little and he's so scrappy and he wrestles so much different than everybody else, and I love it. So, he starts biting Max on the top, and he goes for his Diamond Dust move off the top. MJF nearly counters that and teases doing a tombstone off the second rope, which was a move that he hit in the Dynamite match against Sammy Guevara, so a great callback there. But Darby ends up countering it out, gets the Diamond Dust off the top, goes up top for the coffin drop, and this was a great learning moment where Max just simply rolls away all the way across the ring, showing his ring IQ, but this time Darby is, prepared for that, kind of looks back, knows that Max is out of the way, and doesn't go for the move to crash like he did on the apron. He goes for like a charge in, and Max gets a headlock takeover for a flash near fall that was so good. And then Darby goes for a Rana, and Max just counters that into a powerbomb across the knee. So something that I really like here, we're going to get into a story surrounding MJF's knee, but before we get into that, he had been using his knee for all of these offensive maneuvers, the powerbomb on the knee and the backbreaker. So it makes sense that he's using his knee to do damage, but his knee, if it's got hit points, they're diminishing too, right, as he goes. We get just amazing moves and sequences in this match, like I mentioned. There's a point where Darby starts to get rolling with some strikes, and MJF goes back to the eyes like he did at the start of the match, where he's successful there with it. Darby goes for the Code Red, one of his signatures. Max turns that into the Mad Scientist Bomb, which was nasty. If you're unfamiliar with that move, it's basically if someone's going for like a Code Red or a Yoshi Tonic, and they have their legs, through kind of your armpits, like they're going to take you over with the Sunset Flip Powerbomb, you kind of catapult them back by using their feet and their ankles and flip them over the top of your head into a powerbomb. Crazy move, very hard to pull off. They did it so well here. MJF, he goes for a sharpshooter, and this is where the knee work starts to come into play, where Darby just starts pounding on the knee of Max to avoid the sharpshooter, and, Max is kind of starting to sell that knee a little bit that he'd been using for offense. Darby grabs a figure four, again, showing he has that, he has that wrestling ability too. He's not just that stunt person. They kind of roll out to the apron with the figure four, and we get this moment where on the ring apron, Max goes back to the tombstone, playing off the tease of that off the second earlier, and he hits the tombstone pile driver on the ring apron, which is totally nasty, but at this point, his knee is screwed. The apron, hardest part of the ring, he's got this bad knee that he's, trying to power through, uses it to, deliver damage, but at this point, this is now Darby's opening. And they do some great stuff with Max. He just does an incredible job selling the knee. Darby ends up getting the Code Red out of a powerbomb attempt for a great near fall. The crowd is completely electric, super into this match and red hot. Darby goes for the coffin drop again. Max, again, this time rolls out to the floor. Darby ends up hitting the coffin drop from the top rope all the way out to the floor, which was insane. They did it so well. He tries to follow up in the ring with the coffin drop. What does Max do? You can't roll out of the way. All of the breath is gone from him just absorbing that move on the floor. So the only way that he can avoid that coffin drop is to get those knees up, including that bad knee. So he counters that, but really can't get any advantage off of it because he's selling the knee. He can't cover. It's all so good. At this point, Max knows that he's on borrowed time with that bad knee. One of Darby's finishing moves, the Last Supper, he ties up that knee in the Indian Deathlock and bridges back for a pin. If he puts that on Max, there's no way with that bad knee that Max is going to be able to kick out of that. So, here come the troops, right? Here come the cavalry. Wardlow and Shawn Spears start coming down the apron. And I love the use of Sting here. I think AEW has used Sting so very well. We get the Sting pop where he comes out with his bat, starts wrecking, MJF's two goons and send them back to the back. And we know this match is going to end clean, or so we think. So during all of this chaos, MJF goes to the floor, gets Darby's skateboard, uses it as a crutch, which is just amazing stuff, brings it in the ring. And, he can't take advantage of it because the referee is now there. He can't use it as a weapon. So he hands it over to Darby. And at this point, knowing he doesn't have a leg to stand on, literally, he tells Darby, I've riled you up. I've said all of these nasty things. You're garbage. Why don't you hit me with that skateboard like the garbage wrestler you are? No doubt sacrificing his head to take the DQ win because they've really established in AEW with the wins and losses how important they are to Max and how he wants that title and how he wants to climb the rankings. So he'll take the DQ win. He's proud, but he's not that proud. So of course Darby, being the great babyface that he is, he hands the skateboard over to Bryce Remsburg. He starts to take it out of the ring. This of course allows MJF to slip on the Dynamite Dozen ring, blast Darby with it, and just the perfect bow on this wonderful match. rather than just cover. As Darby gets hit with the ring, he grabs him in the side headlock, takes him over with it. 1, 2, 3, pins Darby Allin with a headlock takeover, just like he said he would. And the best heels in wrestling are the people that say things and then back them up. You hate them for it, but you have to recognize that they are good. And that's exactly what it was with MJF here. Great finish, not cheap in the slightest because it worked in the overall story, protects Darby too, gives MJF his 3rd win over the other 3 pillars, and would catapult him into his CM Punk feud, which I'm sure we will talk about another time on this show. It might be a year out though, but we'll get to it. This match is excellent with AEW. They don't have any sort of an archival streaming service yet, so if you want to check this one out, you got to go back and order the pay-per-view. If you're in the US, I think you can find it on Bleacher Report. If you're outside the US like me, it's on Fight TV. AEW also sells their events on DVD, so if you go to shopaew.com, you might be able to find a DVD of this one if you're still into physical media. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50, and please join me again next time as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.